Thank you so much, members of the media fraternity. We are like-minded members of Bunge la Mwananchi under the caucus of the Third Liberation Movement. We have a few issues to address concerning the governance of our country. Number one, we have proposed an amendment to the Constitution of Kenya 2010 under the provisions of Article 257 of the Constitution, because we intend to trigger a popular initiative drive. The reason why we have proposed changes to the 2010 Constitution is to address some of the issues we believe have led to historical injustices, imbalances, marginalization, and inequality. Specifically, we are concerned that the leadership position at national level has always been elusive to a majority of Kenyans, as the two existing positions of the deputy president and the president respectively are simply a preserve of two communities. And to that extent, we are proposing the introduction of a parliamentary system of governance with the positions of the prime minister and two deputies, alongside the entrenchment of a powerful leader of the opposition with two deputies in the constitution. Secondly, we are also proposing the inclusion of People's Assembly, which is locally known as bunge la Mwananchi in the constitution, so that it becomes part and parcel of the larger government architecture in our country. Number three, in that regard, we are introducing a principle known as demographic quota system, insofar as sharing, or rather qualification for purposes of holding a position in public service is concerned. This system works in the following manner. Number one, that all public positions, whether nominative or appointive, are to be shared equitably along the demographic lines, meaning that there is a specific percentage which should be allocated to the youth. Then there is another percentage which should be allocated to people who are aged between 36 to 49. And then the last percentage is to be allocated to people who are 50 years and above. In furtherance to the proposed amendments, we are suggesting that the allocation to counties be increased to a minimum of 35%, so as to enable counties equally to set aside a certain percentage for purposes of Ward Development Fund. And in that regard, we are equally suggesting that the Constituency Development Fund, which we have proposed to be known as the National, we are proposing that the Constituency Development Fund, which we have suggested to be known as the Constituency Decentralized Fund, be entrenched in the Constitution. So these, alongside other proposals, such as making ministers, rather appointing ministers from members of parliament and appointing members of county assemblies to be CCs, will help us in addressing the question of huge public wage bill. A very fundamental issue which also arises is that we have a bloated number of commissions and independent offices. A quick look at the provisions of Article 248 will demonstrate to you that there are a number of commissions which basically are overlapping in duties. For instance, if you look at the functions of a Commission of Administrative Justice, known as Ombudsman, and you compare that alongside the National Gender and Equality Commission, you will definitely find that most of the functions are more or less the same. So we are proposing what we call restructuring and merger of commissions, so that we have lean commissions performing a number of duties, but with a leaner staff, and of course now quality, efficient, and effective service delivery. In the same regard, we are suggesting that Commission on Revenue Allocation should be a department within the larger National Treasury, so as to cut on wastages and pilferages of resources. Most importantly, Kenyans so far have not benefited from the existing positions of deputy governors. So we are suggesting that we retain the 47 county governors but we scrap the positions of deputy governors, as well as making the larger legislature to be a bit lean. Currently, the National Assembly is composed of 349 members. 290 are elected from single-member constituencies. We have additional 47 women representatives and additional members who are nominated. So we are suggesting that members who are representing single-member constituencies should be 210, as it were, in the former constitutional dispensation, pre-2010. And then we have 20 nominated members who strictly must be professionals, shared on a 50-50 gender basis. And in the Senate, we retain the 47 senators, but insofar as nominations are concerned, we have 8 nominated senators. That is, each region representing the former 8 provinces should have at least 1 nominated senator. So that is the larger view of the proposed amendments we are bringing. The question number 2, which we would like to address, is in relation to the just concluded African Union Commission elections. In that regard, we would like to thank the government of Kenya and His Excellency President Dr. William Samoei Ruto for his unequivocal support, because he did unleash the entire state machinery behind Kenyan candidate, who happens to be the East African candidate. He gave him all resources and material support, and we thank the government in that regard. We equally thank Baba for daring to dream and daring to contest and putting a very, very strong fight, despite all the odds which were there in terms of regional economic blocks, religion, politics, and even economic competition questions. But in that regard, we would like to appeal to the 2 principals, that is the President and Baba, to consider broadening the broad-based government by ensuring that moving forward to 2027, they cobble together a political outfit which mirrors the giant ODM juggernaut which we had in 2007 with Pentagon members, because we've seen from AUC politics that this country is still divided along ethnic lines, perpetuated by ethnic hatred. So the only reason, or rather the only route through which we can achieve healing and realize cohesion, is by having the 2 principles, that is Baba and the President, working together and creating an outfit which reflects the face of Kenya. And of course, now to the fanatical followers of Baba, and of course those who support the President, we also appeal to them that they should join hands and work together. And even as we push this referendum drive, we call upon them and every Kenyan to give us moral support. And when we come outside there to conduct public participation, to do sensitization and to collect views, we plead with them to welcome us, to listen to us, and most importantly, to help us in collecting signatures. And lastly, we want to give a very strong warning to Baba's detractors that under no circumstances shall we allow Baba to go back to the street. We are not allowing Baba to go back to the streets. And if anybody thinks that the results of the AUC elections are any reason to make Baba to join hands with the people who have sunk Kenya lowest, we have a very bad news to them. We as his supporters, we won't allow him to go back to the streets. What we will allow him to do is to engage in productive political discourse, which will yield constitutional reforms and revamp the economic growth of this country. And finally, we appeal to everybody who supports Baba to come out in large numbers and give him an rousing and thunderous heroic welcome, and as he jets back from Addis Ababa to Kenya. Thank you so much. That is the end of the statement. And so maybe we welcome a few questions from you people. Yes. Yes.
Thank you very much, members of the Fourth Estate. My name is Agai Tenye, the National Speaker of this noble social movement, Bunge la Wananchi. My contribution on the proposal bill, I want to thank my brother Victor Wa for drafting such a very serious thing to the National Assembly, and we are going to present it to them. And we are optimistic that they will cooperate with us to push the agenda forward. We are working on numerous bills, so they should just prepare themselves to receive more from us. We want a lean government. In as much as we push for such changes, we are not rooting for enlarging the public wage bill. But as we push for that, we are also focusing on inclusivity and areas which need changes. For instance, the commissions, the numerous commissions to be put, to be merged, and the officers also to be lean, so that wage bill should not go to exponential level. So that is what we are rooting for. And again, on this issue of cabinet secretaries, we are also saying that the politicians, the members of parliament, should be cabinet secretaries, because you find currently the cabinet secretaries, some of them are technocrats and they are not in touch with what is happening at the ground. So such areas we are also focusing on to ensure that MPs become cabinet secretaries. And we will also wish that the 290, over 290 MPs and the 47 women reps to be also merged. We need 210, we need a few leaders, and the funding should be given on time, such that we have the former 210 MPs funding. The Constituency Development Fund is done on time, so that it caters for the poverty level. For instance, education and the health sector, constructing of roads at the local area. So those are some of the things we are working on, and we are very much optimistic that the National Assembly, the Senate, will give us enough support to ensure that these changes are well implemented, and we will be very much happy on that. So I also want to say something on the just concluded AUC campaign trail. I want to sincerely thank the President for using the government machinery to ensure that Raila captured the seat, but unfortunately we didn't capture it. But it is not our loss. It is loss for the entire Africa, because Pan-Africanism spirit still has not been achieved. As per our view, Pan-Africanism spirit is still in jeopardy. And it's very unfortunate. The presidents who were there betrayed the spirits of Julius Kambarage Nyerere, Thomas Sankara, Jomo Kenyatta, Nelson Mandela, Kwame Nkrumah, just to name but few, Sako Ture. It is very, very annoying that we are still divided along our colonial languages, Francophone, Anglophone, Arabic, and Nini. And it is time that our African nations, the Francophones and the Anglophones, must speak with one voice, because language should not be our hindrances to sorting out our economic differences. Africa still lags behind in terms of economy. People are still living below poverty line in each and every country. And we are optimistic that had Raila gotten the seats with these policies and ideologies, I think this could have been reduced in the 8 years which you could have been taken there. It is unfortunate that this is a slap to our unity as Africa, and as Kenya, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs must look on our relation again as Kenya, because Kenya contribute a lot to African Union based on our economic standard and our economic power. Kenya being an economic powerhouse in Africa, alongside South Africa, Nigeria, and Egypt, we contribute a lot. Currently, refugees are here. And define where these refugees are coming from. Their president didn't vote for our candidate. What is the essence of such a kind of thing? So we need to realign and look at our foreign policy. That is my stand on that. I also want to, it is not only horrifying at local level. It is not only horrifying, but utter disrespect to national unity, because you find some communities were celebrating that Raila has lost. Shame on them, and we are really saddened by their action. In conclusion, I want to tell Kenyans, let us work together, let us unite, and Raila Amolo Odinga must team up with the president, reignite the spirits of Pentagon, unite the country so that we move forward. Those who are willing that we join the roads and bring demonstration, I think that shouldn't be there. Let's focus and build our country economically as we focus on Vision 2030. With those few remarks, I'm Agai Thenya. That is my kicker.